Welcome back, everybody. So ice fishing is here. The lakes are all locked up, which means it's time to put away all the open water stuff. So figured why not go ahead and show everybody kind of how I clean my reels and then store them for winter. I'm not going to say it's the perfect way, and I'm sure there are plenty of people that would disagree with how I clean them, but I've had plenty of reels that have lasted, a decade. So, I'll go ahead and do that. But before I do that, we still do have the giveaway going on for that advent calendar, which is going great so far. So if you guys are interested in that, we'll go ahead and show that little clip and a little plug here. So it's the holiday season, and what better time for giving than now? I absolutely love Christmas time, love giving out gifts and whatnot. So, and what better way to show appreciation to everybody that's been, subscribed to me on YouTube, watched videos, liked, shared, all that good stuff, than to do a giveaway. So we're going to try and give away this advent calendar during Christmas. All the rules are going to be on my Instagram, and that's where we're going to do it through. Instagram is 608fishing1. And hopefully everything goes well and we can, do more stuff and potentially bigger stuff in the future. But all the rules will be over there. By no means is this like supported or endorsed by YouTube or Instagram or anything else like that. But yeah, just want to show a little bit of appreciation. Hopefully somebody can get this around Christmas time and catch some fish with it. But again, appreciate everybody that has, supported the channel for, thus far. And again, over on my Instagram, I don't have very many followers on that. So if you do enter, you probably got a pretty decent chance of winning. But now, back to the video. Again, greatly appreciate everybody who's supported the channel this far. Head on over to my Instagram and enter into that giveaway. Hopefully we can get somebody some lures around Christmas time and they can end up catching some fish with them. Obviously, if it's somewhere up north, you're probably going to have to wait till spring, but hopefully you can catch some fish with it nonetheless. So again, as far as cleaning my reels, I do it very, very simply. I don't tear everything down because I have broken enough reels to trying to do that. If you have a piece that's worn out or something like that, trying to get it back together can be pretty impossible. So I try to avoid that at all costs. I'm sure you could take it to a repair shop for reels that, would do a much better job. But again, this has done really well for me for plenty of years. So this is kind of what I do. So first off, you're always going to want to go ahead and tape your line down. Now, if you're stripping everything down, like taking all your line off, you don't have to worry about that. You can go ahead and strip that off. But I don't change out my line insanely often just because I don't use my reels, or I have enough of them to where I don't use them all the time to where that line's going to wear out. So I'll probably keep this on for till next year. So after taping that down, I'll just go ahead and take the side plate off, take your spool out, and from there we can kind of clean everything. Q-tips are definitely your friend. I basically just rub down everything that's going to have a ton of contact, your bearings, your spindles, and I don't know how well you can see, but filthy. So I probably should have done this sooner than what I have, but we'll clean all that. And I don't like to try and make things more dirty, so I'll use plenty and plenty of Q-tips to go ahead and clean all of this. So that's not too bad. Drop that. I'll clean the sides of my spool. That's not too dirty, but just trying to get all the dust and debris off. That's actually not awful. Next, I'll go ahead and clean the inside of the reel. Go ahead and do that. Must have cleaned this one somewhat recently. Usually they're a little bit worse than that. We'll clean the slide bar. I don't really use too much for alcohol or anything else like that to clean everything. You can if it's really, really dirty, and then we'll kind of clean the worm gear. That's usually what gets the dirtiest. So that we'll have to clean some of this. All right, not too shabby. So that, take off the tension, clean that also. And that is just dirty oil. So that will absolutely hinder some of your casting distance. Clean that bearing a little bit, and we should be good. So that's everything that I do for cleaning. Now for the oiling part. And this is where it gets a little controversial. The typical rule of thumb is grease on gears, and then your bearings and everything else get oil. I follow that for the most part. The only part that I don't is I put oil also on my worm gear. I'm sure plenty of people would disagree with that, but again, it's worked well for me. I haven't had any issues with reels breaking or anything else like that, so I guess I'm going to continue to do that. And, you know, obviously you can use what works for you. So from here, it's super simple. So we'll go ahead and first start with our spool. And again, I've found, very much the case is less is more, and it does a lot better for you. So on all the places that I'm going to go ahead and oil, it's going to be a drop. It's going to be very, very minimal. So we'll go ahead and put a drop on our bearing here. There we go. And then just a tiny little bit on the spindle. And I do mean a tiny amount. Then we'll go ahead and drop that on in to our reel. There we go. And then we will put a single drop on this bearing. Getting a little low on oil. And then we'll put our tension knob on. It's a little bit easier if you back off the drag, gives you a little bit more space. But so there's that. We'll go ahead and do that now. And then on the other side, we'll put also just a tiny, tiny little bit on that spindle. And then on our side plate, we'll take that bearing and put one little drop on there. And then we'll go ahead and put on our side plate. There we go. So from there, this is where it gets a little unconventional for some people. I do use the real oil for my worm gear, and I will use 2 drops of that. So I'll use it basically on one on each side. There we go. And then just a tiny, tiny bit on our slide bar. Again, tiny, tiny bit. And that is all she wrote for that part of the reel. Now I'll go ahead and put just a tiny bit of oil on each of the reel handles, and then your thumb bar, because obviously that's getting used incessantly while you're fishing. So we'll go ahead and, again, just a tiny bit of oil to those spots. That's more than enough. Okay, we'll go ahead and work it back and forth. I'll go ahead and dab off the extra. This Ardent bottle isn't the greatest as far as getting oil exactly where you want to. It's a little bit thick. They do have, I think it's the Lucas oils that have a much more fine tip. And that is all she wrote. And that is all we do for our oil. Now for lues, they do have a little back plate that you can easily put grease on your gear. And this is where I will put some grease on my gear. So, and I'll go ahead and show that in a second. With my other reels, I honestly don't mess with it too much because I think the opportunity to go ahead and lose a piece, if a piece is worn out and it falls or something like that, or there's something potentially kind of worn out in there, your ability to go ahead and put it back together perfectly so that it works really, really well, in my experience, isn't great. So I guess if you're mechanically inclined or good with that sort of thing, you know, you can most certainly go ahead and try. I've just broken enough not to want to do it. So the lues I will most certainly do. If there's other reels, I don't believe I have other reels that do that, but for these I will go ahead and add just a tad of grease, and then for the rest, I've again haven't had too much issue. And if I ever wanted them to get them deep cleaned, I would probably end up sending them on into a dealer or a reel repair shop. So we'll go ahead and take that back plate off and then put just a tiny bit of grease, and then that'll be just about it. Now, again, for the grease, an absolute tiny amount is what I use. I will put it on like 2 little spots, just on a couple of those threads there. So there's one spot, and then I'll put just a tiny bit on another spot. And I do mean an absolute tiny amount. I don't know how well you can see that tiny amount, but that's about it. And that is smooth from beginning to end. So that's how I've done it. If you guys do it somehow differently, by all means, go ahead and comment that down in the comment section below. This is just what's really worked for me. I'll have to get that screw in a second. But again, if you guys do something different, comment down below if there's better products. I use the Ardent reel butter a lot. I know there are better products out there for this, but it's worked pretty well for me, short of wishing that there's a little bit more of a needle tip on the oil to keep things a little bit cleaner and a little bit more where you want them to. But as always, lastly, one of the most important things for winter, I always back off my drag a ton, basically loose. I've had it before where I've had it tight because I just left it, forgot about it, and I've had some of those washers fuse in there. So that's something I would most certainly do, is back off that drag as much as possible. And we'll go ahead. I usually put them back in their boxes, and I do keep them indoors. Not that I know that letting them sit outside in the freezing cold really does anything, but I just think it can't hurt to keep it in a somewhat temperature controlled environment. So that's all I do. Again, if you guys like the video, if you wouldn't mind liking, if you want to see more videos like it, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, that'd be greatly appreciated also. Till the next one.